You are pushing record.
Hello, everyone. I'm talking to Phil on his show, baby. This is going to be fun. I can
Yeah,
tell.
you are, man. Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister. No fan of Pfizer, I can assume.
Well, you know what? I'm no fan of people putting, I'm no fan of myself putting untested chemicals into my body. Big companies, they can exist and people can choose to buy products from chemical companies, from anything. Now, if they're forced to take chemicals from chemical companies, I'm not a fan of that at all. But if people can put whatever they want to put in their bodies, okay? But I'm no fan of anyone saying, you better put that in your body, Mr. Meister. No. I'm not down with that. I am a healthy guy. I don't during flu seasons. I mean, I've lived through plenty of flu seasons. I have never even desired the freaking flu shot at all. Never. So why would I desire any other shot? I don't know why.
Yeah. You got to build that immune system, right? And the best way to do that is to get sick and power through it. But that's really the biggest thing, man. Like, people don't have the freedom of choice, and the only thing that we do have the freedom to choose is now our money, especially on days like today when it just tips 28K. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, I woke up, we're scheduled to do this, and I stayed up late last night, like I keep on doing. And so I see like a hour before I woke up, like, whoa, and it dropped a little bit more than I anticipated, but it's already back into the mid 30s or whatever, which is low compared to where it was, but it's high compared to where it was last year. I mean, so it's all perspective, and the people have put Elon Musk on a pedestal. The ignorant people out there still react to China FUD after all these years. Dude, I have seen China FUD every darn year since 2013. It works like a charm. Like, China says something, weekends panic. It is unbelievable. In the long run, it keeps going. I was around when China FUD was affecting people and Bitcoin was $300. I mean, and people sold at $300 because they were scared of FUD, or they were scared of Mike Hearn. That was a rage quit. That was, put Mike Hearn, he was a developer, on a pedestal, just like they're putting Elon Musk on a pedestal. It looks so silly when you look back on it, but people continue to fall for it, and this will all look ridiculous soon enough also.
Yeah, I had Fire Haas on about a year ago, and one of the biggest takeaways, which is what the title of the episode was, is that he's like, Phil, never short stupidity. And today is like the best day that proves that.
Oh yeah, people act in herds. There are a lot of newbies in that just had amazingly weak hands. You said Friar Haas was on. It was Haas McCook that said that on your
Hell
show?
yeah.
Yeah, man, I hung out with him in Sydney. I was in his car. I have never been in a car that is accelerated like that before. The dude like jumped 3 lanes at once. It felt like I was on a roller coaster. I have never. It was a good car. It was a nice SUV. Unbelievable acceleration. I never felt like I was on a roller coaster on a highway before like that. But he's awesome. He's great. And you're speaking about freedom. They don't have much. For years and years, we've had all these people, mostly Americans, mostly smug Americans who think they're smart. They're like, oh, Canada and Australia are so free. The people are so sophisticated now. And now they're under fascist rule. I mean, it's unbelievable. Especially in Australia. I mean, people can't go visit Australia now. I mean, the lockdowns there were horrendous. In Canada, it's disgraceful that, what they did in Ontario. And it's just so funny that when it comes down to it, what this last year has shown, that, Florida and Texas are the best places to freaking live. And, they might not be too glamorous, but dude, I would not rather be anywhere else but the United States during this entire, since last March. I mean, it's really embarrassing what has happened in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, but worse in Australia and New Zealand than Canada. And I spent plenty of time in all those places before, and they are beautiful places. And it is shocking that it has come to this, and that the people are that weak too. I don't want to per se blame it on the people. The system we have in the United States, the federalist system, where where the states have some say, where there's 50 different experiments, it's really paying off nicely now. Because if it was just like if the federal in DC, if they had more power, we'd be in deep doo-doo. It would have been a lot different. Like everyone would have done the same thing in all the states. It was great. And Florida, well, especially Florida, but then Texas, they stood their ground, and they really helped switch this around. Because when people, recently when it turned 2021, I think people started seeing like, wait a second, people aren't dropping dead here, and Florida and Texas aren't as strict as the other places, and what's going on? And if it weren't for those shining examples, we might be more like Canada. Who knows? But yeah, I went off on a tangent there, but thinking about Haskell Cook. But whenever I hear one of these awesome Australian Bitcoiners' names, I mean, I think of my time there and how glorious it was, and how just impossible it seems like what they're going through now. Like that they were locked down in their freaking houses for so long, like freaking China. But anyway.
No, I agree, man. Like you're preaching to the choir here. It's funny, like all those shining golden boy examples aside, like Texas and Florida. If you have a top-down like federal system, like on a mass scale, like soft money creates soft people, and the herd will just follow. But it's funny. The more Europeans I have on the show, or the more Europeans I meet, or even hear on Twitter and see in other interviews, I don't know if it's just because they're loud Bitcoiners, but I think in general, like Europeans just are harder people. Like they don't give a fuck. Like I seem to find that I don't know.
Well, in terms of,
it depends on the European.
I think the Europeans
course.
the Europeans we encounter on Bitcoin are special.
Yeah.
They're pretty. If you're a European and you got into Bitcoin, you're pretty hardcore. But there are a lot of herd followers out there. There are a lot of weak Europeans. I mean, there's definitely independent.
It is the majority.
Yeah. I mean, there's the ones that are independent are mighty independent. I will say that, and use their brains. But there's some of them that just have totally bought into a leftist narrative, and a lot of them have followed these lockdowns pretty. I mean, it was the Europeans who they blindly followed a fascist leader quite memorably in the 30s and 40s. So I'm not. They've had their embarrassments in the past. So really, the Germans, some of the Germans should have been protesting a little. I mean, it doesn't seem like some Germans learned from that example, because a lot of Germans followed their government rules, their dictatress quite a bit during this situation. But I will say this. The German and Austrian Bitcoiners that I know have been great. The Bitcoiners, I'm just saying the general population, some of them they're pretty disgraceful.
Yeah.
But the European Bitcoiners, yeah, I love them. There are some pretty hardcore dudes over there, and I mean, they are fighters for Bitcoin. They will really talk. I mean, it's just like Francis Pouliot is a Canadian, is a Quebecer, okay? But he doesn't act like most Canadians accepted this nonsense. I mean, he's the complete opposite.
I will say like the Bitcoiners that are foreigners are like exponentially harder than I feel like I could ever be. I think that's what I was trying to say. Like they just blow me away in just how hardcore they are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they've had to deal with all forms of government, all forms of statism that we cannot even imagine. I guess that we haven't had to deal with. I mean, in Europe, speaking of Germany, they have these free, they limit their freedom of speech, and that's been a thing for a long time. And again, Germany obviously went through some horrible things in the 1940s, horrible things, and you can make up. People should be able to make up lies about that if they want to. But you're not allowed to make up lies about that if you want to in Germany, which in a sense, I mean, it protects people's feelings and whatnot. But again, the Europeans are used to they some of them definitely trend toward limiting speech in terms of and that is limiting freedom. That's cutting down on arguments, and it's scary stuff. So we've got European counterparts that have had to deal, that can extrapolate on what when you go down the rabbit hole of limiting freedom of speech, where that leads you. So they are very vocal about, because freedom of money is a form of freedom of speech. I mean, Bitcoin is a form of a freedom of speech. It's uncensorable. Okay, you cannot stop it, and it allows people to be funded. In this cancel culture that we're living in the United States right now, when people are being deplatformed. In the end of the day, some of them, the only way they might be supported financially is through Bitcoin. Through people sending them Bitcoin donations, and thus it will keep their voices alive. So one can see how wise Europeans who have to deal with these, and I think Canadians even they don't have the same freedom of speech that we do. Why they would be so hardcore about Bitcoin, and they seem to be willing to go to war easier than most Americans. Well, not most Americans. Like me, I don't feel like I need to get into these curse matches on Twitter or whatever. But some of the Europeans are very defensive, and Canadians can be very defensive with Bitcoin. Like if someone attacks Bitcoin, they're going to war. I mean, it's like the end of the world type of situation. I'm calm about it. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. They're gonna be haters out there. Peter Schiff doesn't bother me very much. It's a big gimmick to me what he does. I don't find him threatening, and I find it sometimes a waste of time when you're dealing with these trolls. But I understand why some people are very defend Bitcoin like it is a freaking war out there.
Yeah, man, I agree, and I've only been in Bitcoin really not even 2 years, but even in that short amount of time, I've been able to be complacent with just all of the noise that happens. And at first, when I was trying to proselytize the good word of Bitcoin, it's only recently that I just kind of acted like a duck and just let it roll off my back and be like, people are gonna figure it out sooner or later. But yeah, it's kind of cool to have that state of grace and peace and just contentness. People will find it on their own merits, and Bitcoin's just gonna keep doing its thing even when it drops over 50% or whatever. So it's just that state of bliss. But
it's great that you have attained that state of bliss in less than 2 years, because usually it takes
it's some days are easier than others.
Because usually it takes people 4 years. You've got to live through a cycle to understand, okay, I've seen this China flood before. I've seen this drop before. I've seen all these supposed smart people panic before in the mainstream. And it doesn't bother. It just rolls off my back. I mean, some people kind of wonder, well, how can you just go about your regular day when it drops $20,000 in a 2-day period? I've been predicting this for a while. I mean,
yeah.
it is glorious that we can live through a time where Bitcoin drops $20,000 and it's still $35,000. There was a time when it was $1,000. If it dropped $1,000, it would have been at zero. So I mean, we're living through some awesome times right here. But I mean, there'll be days that are worse than this when we get to the 6-digit round, when it's over $100,000.
Exactly.
There will be actually days where it drops $30,000 in a day. All right, yeah. Great. That'll be great. It'll be worth $100,000. Great.
I mean, the people that give those criticisms are just lazy. They don't understand it. And so then they're not going to invest the time to zoom out, look in the past, and see how far we've come, where we are, and all this stuff. But speaking of zooming out in the past, I really don't know a whole lot about you. I know you got the show and everything, but I'm interested in hearing your story if you're not too jaded telling it by this time. But even before Bitcoin, what were you doing?
That's what I like.
Were you in school, whatever? Just
I like
your journey so far.
Yeah, I like talking about the old days and stuff. So no, I'm not jaded in sharing that story.
Hell yeah.
Well, I'm from Baltimore. I grew up in the suburbs of Baltimore, Maryland.
You a Ravens fan? You Ravens fan?
Oh, yes, but I gave up. I haven't watched an NFL game since what's his face started kneeling. I was in Las Vegas.
Kavanaugh.
Since the 49er guy kneeled. I'm not going to name his name.
Wait, no.
When the NFL became ridiculously political, in 2016. I stopped watching the games. I'm a huge Orioles fan. I grew up, they were around before the Ravens, and but I try not. You got to put it in perspective, people. I used to be a much bigger sports fan. I spent so much time on it, and not spending any time.
For the record, I'm not. I don't even know why I asked, just for the sake of conversation. But I don't do the sports ball very well. But
No. Of course, you're in Austin, Texas, so it's all around you. You cannot avoid this. You can't avoid the Longhorn, whatever it is.
I got a Longhorn right behind me. That's what that is. If you can.
So
tell.
I mean, and it's a past. They love football in Texas. Love it. But so you ask the football, it's ingrained in your head. But no, I instead of spending a bunch of time studying NFL statistics. Since 2016, I studied a lot about money, which was a good decision. But I'd already bought Bitcoin then. But going back to yeah, I grew up like any kid in the suburb, and just your typical. My parents loved me, sent me to the best schools possible, and everything. Really valued education, and so what did I do? Given all these nice middle class things, I decided. You know what? I want to buy a house in the ghetto of Baltimore and get a bunch of other people to move to a block in the ghetto of Baltimore. And just by living there, we'll make it better. We're not going to flip the houses. We're going to live in them. And it was called the Buy a Block Project. And it was, when I look back on it now, it was like kind of, sacrificing myself. It could have been sacrificing myself. I mean, there were dangers. There was a murder on my block, at least one. During my stay there, but it was a great experience. It was for the greater good, to make Baltimore good and make Baltimore better, because Baltimore's a disgrace. I mean, what it's experienced since the 1950s is unbelievable. Just how it's totally fallen apart.
Wait, so you yourself moved there, like after college and everything, or
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I devised this project, and I got a bunch of people to do it with me. We had like cool. 13 houses on the block. We moved. So I worked in the technology before that and stuff. I'd worked for other people, and I decided I didn't like that. So I've been working for myself for quite some time.
Are you a developer, or were you in sales, or?
No, I'm marketing. I went to Washington University in St. Louis with a major in marketing. I've just got a business mind. But I've always loved the internet, and I love space. I love progress. I love innovation, and I love doing things a little bit different. And so instead of being a developer with real estate, I was like a guy who developed by living there and getting other. And so we moved into empty houses or some were kind of empty. People, I mean, there's all sorts of combinations. Some needed more work than others, and it got a lot of attention in Baltimore City, to say the least. It got me. I mean, I became a community activist or whatever. But around when we started having the financial crisis, I started getting more interested in alternative finance. Just being in real estate, I knew a little bit about finance through, I had to buy a house, although the house only cost me $41,000.
You big Kiyosaki fan?
Well, I didn't know about him back then. But definitely didn't know about that then. So what affected me back then was like Doug Casey, who's kind of an anarchist, a guy who became wealthy through just relying on himself and just not following the herd, to say the least. But we were there was a lot of suspicion about bailouts and why everything was falling apart in 2008 and 2009, and so I was into all sorts of alternative financial sites, and it was kind of a downer then. I thought like everything was going to fall apart, which was what a lot of these doomers were saying. But what I eventually learned is that the world doesn't end. Some people are going to become poorer, but a lot of people became wealthy during the Great Depression, and that was a lot worse than the financial problems of 2008 and 2009. So I did hear about Bitcoin. I don't know when the first time was, but it had to be around 2010 or 2011. unfortunately, I didn't write. I know definitely by 2012, I knew about it. And so because I was on these alternative websites, alternative financial websites, so people were talking about it. And some people who ended up being really unreliable conspiracy theorists were talking about it. And it just goes to show you that some people can be insane on certain things, but they can inform you about early about other aspects of it. So yeah, by 2012, I'm still living in the ghetto of Baltimore, and I'm learning about Bitcoin, but I'm not buying Bitcoin, and I'm kind of in a rut there. Like, I'm living in this big house. It was an awesome house, and Baltimore's still a vicious place. I made the block better, but what can one person do for a city like that's really ingrained with a certain mindset? I mean, personal responsibility is the new counterculture. I made my life better, but other people have to choose to make their lives better. And there weren't a lot of people making their lives exactly better, and they're still not in Baltimore. I mean, during this whole crisis, I mean, the people just rely on the government for answers. It's unbelievable. So I probably skipped a few things here, but I really noticed that Bitcoin had surged and then would drop, and I kept my eye on it. And then in the August of 2013, I had an unfortunate experience when walking to the club one evening. Literally, I was going to this DJ's event. I was on the guest list, so I had no money with me. I was walking on a lovely street in Baltimore City, and some youths approached me with a gun, and it was either fight or flight, baby. And I ran and I screamed, and they ran and they screamed in the other direction. And I was so happy, instead of some people were traumatized by certain those things. You can tell I have a lot of energy and everything like that. And I was on fire. I was just like, yeah, man. And so the police came and everything. They took me downtown, and they got the report, and then they drove me to the club. So I entered the club through, and I was just so happy. I was telling people, I'm like, yes, I survived. Yes. But at that point, I decided, I'm like, I'm not dying in this freaking city, man. I am not dying in this city. I am selling my house. I am getting out of here. That was the spark that woke me up. I am traveling around the world. I am living my life. I don't owe Baltimore City a darn thing. I owe me. I got to live the life I want to live. And that was August. And then by November, I bought my first 2 Bitcoin. And by January, I had sold the house, and I started traveling. I didn't have a house anymore. Well, I had another house in Baltimore that was a rental, a smaller house. During my real estate times, I ended up with 2 houses. That's a long story. Again, cheap house. When people hear, oh, Adam's buying a house. Adam bought houses for $41,000 and $38,000. Okay, but those things were it's good investments. You got to know how to buy things low. I'm able to value undervalued things. I'm able to find undervalued things. Bitcoin was something that I found. People were saying, oh, you paid $600 a piece for a Bitcoin? Because soon after I bought the Bitcoin, it went to 1,000, but then soon it went to 200. And that's when I started developing the strong hand mentality. I made my first Bitcoin show in, I think, December of 2013, or after I bought the first 2 Bitcoin. It was either November or December. In 2014, I made a couple shows. Then 2015, I really started getting into it. And 2016, it was just like nonstop freaking shows. So now I've got like 2,000 shows. And yeah, I travel. I go from one Airbnb to another. I met people from all over this planet that love Bitcoin, and I never could have predicted this, during my height of being this Baltimore activist of the Buy a Block project. I always would say, no, I'm always going to be in Baltimore. We're going to change this whole city. We're going to make this Reservoir Hill neighborhood is going to be awesome, and blah, 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 blah. I just expanded my life by so much, but there's so many people that are just stuck like trees in their little worlds, and they're not willing to get outside of it. And definitely Bitcoin was the key to get me. And that experience obviously woke me up. And I hope no one has to have experiences like that. But again, I look back from that attempted mugging with such pride. Like I beat those dudes, and I got that. I had my life. They didn't take my life. And what a life I've had since then. It's been unbelievable. So that's my background. It's a unique beast background. Fitting in is overrated. I definitely encourage people, don't try to fit in. Don't if you're there are people like Tucker Carlson out there that think if your city or your town is going down the tubes, that the government should come fix it and should give companies incentive to move there. No, you should get off your tuck list and go where the opportunity is, or just don't complain. Just stay in your old city, and maybe you could find opportunity. There's always some sort of opportunity. It can kind of be rough. I mean, there's opportunity in Baltimore right now, but why put myself through all that stress? I mean, it is it is dangerous in Baltimore. People try to say, oh, there's just people who are scared. They're not used to different types of people living around them. No, it is dangerous. It is really dangerous. I have been to cities all over the world. I mean, I'm in Miami right now. Most city I've been to, except cities in South Africa, are really much more dangerous than Baltimore City. Like it's unbelievable. The cities, to walk safely in these Australian cities at night and European cities at night, it is such a pleasure. People from Baltimore cannot even, if they have seen what I've seen, they would quickly, the people, the blind followers of the mantra in Baltimore, oh, it's not that bad, oh, it's only a one-off thing, oh, it's only drug dealers killing each other. If they just spent a minute, just a week or two in some real cities, or peaceful cities in this world, they would see how ludicrous things have become there. Now, of course, I mentioned South Africa, and yes, South Africa is worse than Baltimore in many ways. People, when it gets dark in South Africa, like the supermarkets close, people live in Johannesburg they all live in walled-in forts, basically. I mean, it's with razor wire on the top, and they become close to their families because they don't hang out at night out on the street with anybody else. They're in their little compound. So I mean but during the day people are riding bikes and everything. But man, at nighttime in Johannesburg, it's kind of a freak show, man. And just running I'm a big jogger. Just running in Johannesburg and just seeing people live like that. So it can get worse. It can get worse in terms of crime, in terms of the cities of the United States. People aren't living in walled-in compounds yet. But I love South Africa. And I love the people who work in South Africa really have an incredible work ethic. I will tell you that. There are a lot of people who don't work at all. They don't have much ethics at all. But South Africa is a beautiful country, and you can definitely learn a lot there. And I do want to say, for those of you, I can do a tie-in to the. First of all, I've been telling people in South Africa to get rid of their rands for a long time, to turn their rands into Bitcoin, and some of them have, because it's just ridiculous. Their government. I mean, if you think our government's insane with the money, they have no clue over there. But I have a friend there in South Africa, and he was into Bitcoin earlier than me. He had a lot of Bitcoin on like a laptop, and the crime situation is so bad there that if someone at nighttime sees your wall has fallen down or your fence has fallen down, you're weak. I mean, you're standing out. So one night this dude, part of his fence had fallen down 2 days earlier. He hadn't fixed it. He hadn't fixed his fence. So some dude just comes through his fence in the middle of the night, comes into his house, steals his freaking laptop. All right. So because the guy saw the laptop's valuable, you can get $10 for it or whatever. My friend had just taken. Luckily, he had 100 Bitcoin he had quite a lot of Bitcoin on that. I assume it was something like that. On that laptop previously. So
Never 1,000. No one knows.
Yeah, exactly. It's only worth $10 to the dude. So there's a lesson for people out there in terms of your private key. Be careful. Be really careful. A lot of people like to keep Bitcoin on their cell phones and stuff. So you could scale it down a little bit. Why you wouldn't want to keep it on yourself? So that's a pretty extreme example right there of crime in South Africa, combined with Bitcoin storage right there. So there's a little bit about there's a little bit of what makes me tick there. I guess some people got inside my head, see the kind of things I'm interested in life. Because when I go to travel, it's not a vacation for me. I live a life in these cities. I cook. I always cook my own food. I'm among the real people. I don't see the tourist stuff. I never saw the Nelson Mandela stuff at all in South Africa. Never visited it at all. I just, I run on the streets. I see what's happening. I go to the supermarkets. I see how people behave. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, you're on the ground doing Satoshi's work, which is really great, because going back to your point is about like fixing yourself before you kind of fix everyone else. And I guess it almost seems as if you've done that to an extent, and you're trying your best to educate people about Bitcoin so they're motivated to fix themselves first. But when it comes to Africa, it sounds like in those emerging countries, those emerging economies, that is where a lot of the hustle kind of comes from as well. So I don't know if you think maybe you indirectly did influence some people to hustle, or maybe you're just in the right location where y'all can like vibe off of each other's hustle. But I don't know.
Well, yeah, there are some people, like I was also in Zimbabwe for quite some time. And I definitely helped some people out there. I definitely inspired some Zimbabweans, but it's unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate that there are some people that really, really need some prodding in those countries. A lot of people keep on saying, I've heard this since 2014. Africa's the next huge hotbed for cryptocurrency, for Bitcoin, and it should be. If they all got into Bitcoin now, they'd be able to overthrow their governments, and it's just such a way out of their oppressive financial regimes. But some people are pretty complacent there. But I will give credit where credit is due. I mean, the ones that have found out about it and have jumped on the train, they're hardcore. It's changed their freaking lives. I mean, it's given them the ability to just travel out of some of their disgraceful situations. But I mean, like when I was in Namibia, I mean, you couldn't find a Bitcoin community. Really, and to this very day, there's very few people in Namibia that are into Bitcoin, which is sad, because Namibia isn't even, in terms of African countries, it's not even the worst of, it's pretty very Western. I mean, they're just, you're not going to get malaria or anything like that. It's got a good infrastructure, and you would think that there'd be more people in this kind of borderline areas that would get into it, because when you're living in some of these places that are completely falling apart, sometimes you don't have the reliability of the internet to find out about some of these things. So I would love to see some of the dudes, in Nigeria, there are a lot of hustlers and stuff, and I've never been there before, but from what I can tell, there's that seems to be in Africa, that seems to be one of the major hubs of interest. And I had videos from 2016 saying, get rid of your Nigerian Naira, I think that's the name of their currency, and get this Bitcoin now. And they've had major inflation since then. So there's so many people that try to say, Bitcoin isn't really it's not a store of wealth. It doesn't protect your wealth. It fluctuates so much. Dude, it doesn't matter when it comes to some of these African currencies how much it freaking fluctuates, okay? You're still way ahead if in 2015 you turned your crappy African currency, like the Nigerian one, into Bitcoin. You're doing really well, and that gives you freedom to get the heck out of those places if you want to. But I do admire the guys, and some of these countries where you become a target if you become a Bitcoin spokesperson in some of these countries. The government will contact you. So there is risk there. So I'm not encouraging everyone to be the BitcoinMeister of their African country. I'm just do it on the down low, dudes. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. You can do it on the government will never find out about it if you're stacking sats on the down low in these African countries. But there sadly is some people in these African countries, they're so ingrained in their oppressive government regimes, they really think they need the government's approval, or they need to buy it through government sanctioned channels. It's kind of
Yeah, they're
sad.
just dependent sheep, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really and that's true everywhere in the world. Most people are dependent
Yeah.
sheep, but it's kind of sad to see it in some of these countries where they have this pride, like we got rid of our colonial governments, and now they're like they're no individuals. They're like slaves to their dictators.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's really
It's
funny because, again, like in these emerging economies or third world countries, whatever, you are able, because they're not under US rule or, a Federal Reserve rule. I mean, they kind of are indirectly, but these are the countries that actually experience the hyperinflation, that actually experience that raw nature of man and governance, or it just like it hits the fan harder. Whereas I guess we're privileged to where we are protected because of the dollar and like shadow banking and hiding all this, but they get to actually experience it like cold hard, like on the ground. Whereas again, we're sheltered with this financial, screwery.
we don't need it necessarily. I mean, we're living really comfortable lives. If you're just a blind sheep that gets things shot in your arm, and you listen to the narrative, and you just live your white picket fence in the United States, you're living a great life compared to most people in the world, like a really great life. In these other countries, like when I was in Zimbabwe, people were lining up for hours in the bank just to get $50 out of the bank so they could give the $50 to their brother in South Africa. You cannot wire money out of the country in Zimbabwe at that time, at least, through your banks. I mean, it was totally, the capital controls are ridiculous in these countries. So if you had Bitcoin, you could send money to your brother or whatever anywhere in the world. All right, but and then the banks would run out of money eventually. So what would you do? Well, they would just sleep. The people, you couldn't get your $50. You can't go. You need the $50. You sleep in the line. Then the next day you get your $50. Whatever. So I mean, that's the extreme. And again, Zimbabwe's got a pretty good infrastructure. You don't need malaria shots or anything like that there. People hear Zimbabwe, they really think they probably think about like totally really nasty, disgusting, people. Just no, everything works there. Things don't work that well anymore because they haven't maintained things. But again, the infrastructure that was left behind is still there. So it's the people. It's sad that they're stuck in. Well, they don't have to be stuck in the worlds created by the Robert Mugabe's of the world, but they do need the Bitcoin, and a few of them definitely did wake up to the Bitcoin. I mean, I was there. I was at a Bitcoin conference there during Robert Mugabe's freaking reign. Okay, and it was during a time they were not in hyperinflation. They were totally living everything was denominated in dollars. Their bank accounts had dollars. They didn't have their own money there. It was just US dollars. That was the main currency, and South African rand. It was quite an interesting experiment. Much better than them printing their own money. Whenever Zimbabwe prints their own money, it's hyperinflation to the freaking moon. And that's why I see no. I really hope more people in 2016 bought a Bitcoin than I thought did back then. Quite a few did. Yeah, and right now it's never too late, Zimbabwe. It's never too late anyone in these countries, because the one thing you can depend on in these countries, if you've got a national currency, it will be inflated away eventually. It will be inflated away eventually. So why not get your hands on real money whenever you have the freaking chance? It is never too late, and they definitely need it for basic financial freedoms. Just to wire money out of the freaking country, you're under total government control over there.
Yeah, it seems like you've always been a real fixer-upper in a way, and you always are able to find opportunity even before it's like forecasted to kind of boom, because that's where you started in Baltimore. and now you're kind of moving these like philanthropic efforts in places like Africa and everything. Like, do you feel like you've always been that way, or
Well, I'm a
I mean,
long-term
because
thinker.
it also seems that you apply kind of like the buy low sell high, but in like also this humanitarian effort.
Well, the humanitarian stuff now is just coming. It's coming naturally because I'm not going out of my way to like say, oh, I'm going to help the poor Africans or whatever. No, I don't do that. I go where people invite me, and I love to experience new things. I am able to defer gratification. That I've been always good with, and I've always been interested in the future, and I've always seen the future as a positive, awesome thing. And humanity, and again, there have been times where I did have a mindset like, oh my God, everyone overblows things at some point in their life. They see something that's kind of worrisome and they think, uh-oh, it can only get worse from here. And there was but I learned from that, you know what? I lived through the Obama years, which were going to be the end of the world, and I lived through the fight, and it wasn't the end of the world. Plenty of people did well. You cannot put these people on pedestals. You cannot let other people control your lives. Politicians control your lives. Ignore who the freaking president is. Keep making yourself better. And unfortunately, what's happened over the last 4 years on both sides of the aisle, more and more people are living vicariously through politicians. They're not living their lives anymore. It's all a game. It's all a sports game for them. Like, oh, my team beat your team on Twitter today. I call it anti-assets. It's not an asset. You're wasting your time. You're becoming poor. You're wasting time when you could be getting real assets by living your life through this weird social media competition between left and right, Dem and Repub, whatever it is. You're just playing into it. You're giving away your power to them. So
Yeah, like the state is already a liability and like taxing you and with inflation and everything. So like you investing your time towards it is just making it that much worse.
now, so when you said before, with the philanthropic stuff, I believe personal responsibility is a new counterculture. So me preaching that personal responsibility, who is that going to affect the most? It's going to affect the most the people who are under these oppressive regimes and who are buying into these oppressive regimes and who think the world is ending for them. I'm showing them an example like, no, you can change it. You can figure out a way to get out of there. Don't be a tree, get out of there, figure out ways around it. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And so, and be free. I'm just preaching freedom. I don't try to target anyone specifically and do the whole guilt thing like it's my fault that you're unfree. No, it's not my fault that you're unfree. You figure out a way to get out of there. It's your dictator's fault, obviously, but there comes a point in time where if you can hear my freaking voice, if you can watch me on YouTube, you've got the infrastructure to figure out a way to get out of your freaking situation, okay? And it might take some time, and it's going to take some planning, but that's what I'm all about. And I'm about the long-term thinking and being positive and just realizing that the future is bright and freedom is very important. So I don't like to say the word philanthropic. There's a certain like sacrificial aspect to it, and I'm not sacrificing for anyone. I am. Some people. I was going to make a show about this. A lot of people say with Bitcoin, I'm not in Bitcoin because of the money. I'm not in it. You know what? I am in Bitcoin because of the money. I don't want the government to take my money. I don't want the government to inflate my money, to confiscate my bank account. I don't want the government to do what these other governments do to people's money, okay? So yeah, I'm in it for the money. I'm in it to protect my freaking wealth. I am definitely in this thing because I don't want to wake up one day and have nothing anymore. So there are a lot of people that are like, oh, I like the technology behind it, and come up with all these stories, and maybe they're telling the truth. Or I'm trying to help poor people all over the world. I'm protecting my freaking wealth here, so I'm definitely in it for the money, and it's been good to me. It's been good to me. I'm not some CUCK that's going to sit there and just wait for the government to make up some new taxation rule or some new like, oh, you know, just to have all these with real estate. It's such an attack vector. If you've got all your wealth in real estate, you are vilified. If you're a landlord, you're a slumlord. You're the worst of the worst, and you're all the politicians agree. Well, yeah, what's a little bit more taxation on him? Well, let's rob a little bit more from them. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be with those assets. I want to be in an asset where I am protecting my wealth the best way I possibly can. So yeah, I'm in Bitcoin for the money because it is the best way to protect my wealth.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because it does what like free market capitalism, even the word capitalism rubs me the wrong way these days because people conflate it with, corporatism. But
Yeah.
what Bitcoin allows is actual like free markets, and entrepreneurship is really sacrificing your time and labor, but into something that you care about because you identify a problem, and that in itself rewards you in profit, but your profit in work is exemplified through the service that you provide to others who find quality in that as well. So it's a flywheel effect where it's at everyone's advantage to be self-interested. And like, this is what true markets should be doing.
Yes, this is the true free market. And I just want to remind everyone that in the true free market, you're going to have liars and scammers and people trying to come up with all sorts of FUD to scare you out of your Bitcoin, to try to manipulate the market, okay? So you just got to be ready. You got to be aware of this, people. Like,
but Adam, that's why we need regulations to protect us from these scammers.
That's the beautiful thing, because still there are plenty of Bitcoiners that go down that road that are like, well, no, I don't like that. That the market crashed 20,000 because too many people thought Elon Musk was important. He should be punished because of that. Yeah, don't worry about him. It comes into the market. If there's true value in Bitcoin, it doesn't matter what he says, and there is true value in Bitcoin. You don't need governments to punish anyone because of because somebody came up with Ripple. I'm no fan of freaking Ripple. Okay. I'm no fan of freaking Ripple, but I think if some dude wants to print up his own money, let him print up his own money. It's not going to help Bitcoin any bit if they put the SEC puts the Ripple guys in jail or fines them or whatever. It's all about revenge and scapegoating, I think. And I'm not about revenge or scapegoating. I'm not, people trying to figure, why did Bitcoin drop so much? Well, they try to find scapegoats and say, you see, that guy was the problem. They're all different sorts of market players out there. Everybody plays their role. Sometimes people play an oversized role. Who cares? They'll go away. I don't care about Elon Musk crashing the market. Apparently, I don't want to destroy him or cancel him. I still think he's doing great stuff with the Mars stuff. He's an interesting dude. You cannot agree with someone 100% of the time, people, and you can learn from people that you disagree with. People, just get that through your head, because there are a lot of young people out there today that just think, oh, the guy's a Republican. I can't learn a thing from him. I can't even resemble a Republican anymore. That's why there are people out there on social media, it's unbelievable. They're like, I'm going to continue wearing my mask because I don't want to look like a Republican. I mean, you freaking slate.
Yeah.
You freaking slate. You're just admitting that you don't think, and this whole thing's been political for you, and it's all about fitting in and being on a team. So when people can get like that in cryptocurrency world too, okay, in the Bitcoin world too. Some of these people who like Ethereum and who also have Bitcoin, people want to like burn at the freaking stake. I call it the Bitcoin Inquisition, and some people call it Ethereum derangement syndrome. Just okay. I'm not about. I have learned plenty from people like Vinny Lingham, who's definitely dabbled more than dabbled his toes in the altcoin land. But I mean, I would not be in the financial situation that I'm in right now if I had not encountered this. I don't know if you know who Vinny Lingham is, but he's an entrepreneur who actually was born in South Africa and everything, and who has definitely gotten more and more into altcoins over time. And he's not always right, but He was the first guy in 2016. He gave me a legitimate reason why. He said in 2017, Bitcoin's going to get to $3,000. And this was when Bitcoin was like $500 in 2016. And he was definitely right about that thing. And the reasons he gave are all things that have happened or will eventually happen. He was the first person I ever heard talk about eventually governments are going to buy Bitcoin for in their treasuries. Just like now we have corporations doing that. Eventually governments will do that. And that's just on days like this, or on 48-hour periods like this, where Bitcoin goes down by $20,000 or whatever. You got to realize that no country has said, we are stacking sats here. We are in our treasury. We're keeping Bitcoin. We're keeping gold. And
I mean, not publicly.
Not publicly, but once it's addressed, when it's announced publicly, and one day it will be announced publicly, that's going to create quite a storm, because the other countries that aren't doing it are going to want to do it. It's going to spiral up the price of Bitcoin definitely. So we've not even gotten to that point yet in the whole Bitcoin evolution. And we know something like that's going to happen. And we also know that Apple, and I say this a lot, Apple is valued at $2.1 trillion, and that Bitcoin is bigger than any company on earth. So Bitcoin will have to be worth more than any company on earth too. So I mean, we're one day closer to Bitcoin being, having a market capitalization of over $2.1 trillion. It will happen eventually, and you just it's the inevitable. Bitcoin always returns to its all-time high. People forget these things because they're short-term thinkers and they're impulsive, and they get into these doom holes where it's different this time. It's the end of the world this time. The China FUD is serious this time. Elon Musk is the second richest man on earth, so it's different. No, it's not. I've seen it all come and go. All the FUD come and go. It's Bitcoin's, nothing's changed with Bitcoin. Its monetary policy is the same, and that is one of the most, if not the most valuable aspect of Bitcoin. It has the most reliable monetary policy in the history of mankind. I mean, it is what it is. It's not changing, and people find value in that, because in this world today, there's very little truth anymore. People don't know what truth is. Every truth is constantly changing. The whole world is constantly changing. Bitcoin does not change. It is reliability in a sea of chaos. And smart investors can, smart long-term investors can identify that. Pound that like button, by the way, people. All right.
Yeah, that's the thing why I still have like a peace of mind about everything, even being somewhat kind of new. But like, I was already libertarian before the whole Bitcoin thing, so it was like an easy transition. But yeah, like, you can't change it. Like, nothing that individuals do, like, they may be able to manipulate the price or like whatever, or people's emotions change the price, but that doesn't change what Bitcoin actually is. That doesn't change the 21 million supply cap. That doesn't change just how conservative and hard it is to actually change it, because it's the first truly decentralized thing ever. And it's again a nice reminder that this is a manifestation of a true free market, and because it's not always mooning for the growth for the sake of growth itself, because it's having these corrections, people are not willing, like us, to delay that gratification and to actually put in the time and effort and learn what this thing is, and actually understand that this is good for us. In fact, it is a sale, and you should be taking advantage of this, just as you were describing, like value investing earlier and just opportunism. And this is going to humble a lot of people. But I'm wondering, not to get like too conspiratorial, but is this all like retail emotion, people just not understanding it, or do you think that there are some other like players behind the scene that can somehow like spread the right FUD and make the price dump, other than just like Elon saying stupid stuff, depending on what his motives are, and causing people to sell?
The Elon saying stupid stuff spark things because we have a lot of impulsive retail in here. I mean, look, in a world where Dogecoin has pumped to where it has pumped, we've got a lot of irrational people in this space, okay, who are very impulsive, and they're welcome to be here. So most people are irrational most of the time. I mean, they really are. They don't use their head most of the time, and there's herd mentality most of the time. So it doesn't take much for these newbies to create waves like this, okay? And it's a huge part of what is going on right now. And let them do. You're talking. You mentioned people have to learn Bitcoin and understand Bitcoin. They don't even control their own private keys. They've got their cryptocurrency at Robinhood. Most people that are in Bitcoin right now, I would say, or in the whole cryptocurrency space, they have their cryptocurrency at a place where they can easily flip it immediately for $1.
Yeah.
Immediately. So if they
and I understand that like most people won't have to grok Bitcoin to like buy it in the first place.
Yeah, and it's sad.
Like, unfortunately, that won't be the normal, but they'll have it regardless, even if it's like a derivative or whatever.
Yeah, well, again, most people don't understand what really owning Bitcoin is about, because most people don't really own Bitcoin. It's at Coinbase or it's at Robinhood or it's wherever. So when the going gets tough, they can easily just get rid of it, and they don't even understand what they're getting rid of it. If they kept it on their Trezor or their Ledger or whatever, they would. Most of these people have never sent a Bitcoin. Okay, truly sent a Bitcoin, typed in a Bitcoin address to send it. They don't know how to send a Bitcoin, yet they own 20 different cryptocurrencies. They think they own 20 different cryptocurrencies. So when most of the people in the space are like that, you're going to have, and when someone they worship, they're prone to pedestal people, you're going to see things like this. And then, yes, there are entities out there that are traders that always are going to sell the freaking news, okay? And are always going to short Bitcoin on events like this, because they know that the normies are going to play into it and are going to panic even more. And you know what? It's not nefarious. It's just that's how markets work. That's how some people trade. Some people make their money on bad days, on weak hands, and that's just part of any market. And you just deal with it, I say. You as an individual, what's best for you? It's not to gamble. It's not to play these little games that these dudes are playing. Because when you're going back and forth, you're on Coinbase especially. If you're going back and forth in the dollar, this is all taxable events that will be reported to the IRS, and you will have to pay taxes on it. And the true strong hands that just keep things on their Trezor and never sell, that's not a taxable event when you just keep things like that. But most of these normies, they just play into it. They are tax slaves. They are used to this stuff. They are not using Bitcoin for freedom. They are using Bitcoin as a way to get more dollars or just weird speculative stuff that they don't even understand. I mean, that's all. If people just understood how to even send a Bitcoin, okay, we wouldn't have such fluctuations. But I don't think that's going to happen. There's so much more room to grow in the space. We've got so many more people that are going to come into this. So that's why I know we're going to have bigger fluctuations than this. We're going to have bigger oddities than this. We're going to have other huge names talking about scarier things. This whole environmental FUD, this is just the tip of the freaking iceberg, dude. This is going to be the FUD we're going to be dealing with for so long, okay? Who knows who's the next person to say, I'm going to sell my Bitcoin because I'm protecting the environment, okay? And so that's why you don't put people on pedestals, all right? He didn't even say he was selling his Bitcoin. He said, my company's not accepting Bitcoin anymore, and people think that's the freaking end of the world or whatever. So I don't think, if you're getting at, like, is the United States government trying to manipulate Bitcoin behind the scenes? Do they have people that are buying and selling and doing all these things? Do they have a nefarious plan? No, I don't think so at all. I think they're completely inefficient. They're idiots. I mean, have you ever seen people that work in government, at the post office, at the DMV? This is who works in many aspects of our government. They're more concerned about woke issues, about just, you know, how many diversity hires we can have. And the more diversity hires that they hire, you know, people just based on, you know, what sex they think they are, or, you know, what they wear, or, you know, what they've cut off of their bodies or whatever. The more people like that they hire, and the more drama that they create in their HR departments, and you know, the less time they have to worry about to ruin our lives. So let them go down their insane rabbit holes, because so I don't really see, you know, they're going to be, you know, they're going to try to scare people about Bitcoin, but I don't think they have a master plan. I don't think Joe Biden is worse than Trump's administration, really, in terms of like master plans to destroy Bitcoin. In terms of overall taxation, of course, that the Biden administration is more ridiculous than the Trump administration. I mean, the proposed, you know, short-term capital gains taxes are ridiculous, but there's not a lot of people are like think the NSA is going to destroy Bitcoin. You know, there's all these imperatives behind the scenes. Dudes, it's the government. They don't really have that. Some people don't like Bitcoin, but the government is, you know, their way of fighting Bitcoin is creating FedCoin eventually. And let them do that. Let them freaking do that. And, you know, all the Bitcoin haters that hate these centralized altcoins, you know, and that are worried about the government at the same time. If you're really worried about government conspiracies and the government trying to stop Bitcoin, the first thing they're gonna attack the easy attack vectors, and that's Ripple and all these other altcoins that you want to see destroyed, and that you think people shouldn't be wasting their time on. And indeed, I wouldn't buy any of them, but they are shields for Bitcoin. Okay, they are these altcoins are definitely. If the government wants to make a statement, it's going to be on them first, and on the ICOs and the NFTs and all these weird things out there. So yeah, sure, there are ridiculous things out there, but they do serve as a shield for Bitcoin. So I have not been paranoid about the government destroying the whole party. I'm in the Bitcoin in the first place because I know it's already beyond the government's reach. Okay. And so I don't go down these conspiratorial rabbit holes where they're going to all of a sudden figure out a way to hack it, or they're the ones who've been behind it all along. These are all no coiner excuses. This is what you read in the comments section of, you know, Peter Schiff videos of the guys who've just bought into gold forever and ever. They come up with all these weird sayings, weird theories, and it's excuses. It's just excuse making, dudes. We're living in a golden age. Get into what's on the tip of the spear right now, and that is Bitcoin right now. It is you know, there are all these people that wish they could have been living in the year 2000 when the internet was just starting its big boom with the .com era and whatnot. You're living in something much bigger right now in terms of this technological golden age that we're living in, and the evolution of money. And Bitcoin is the way for any person. You could be in freaking Zimbabwe, as we were talking about beforehand. You could be in Argentina. You could be in the wealthiest country in the world, and you can get into it. So these weird conspiratorial excuses, you know, it's fun to write to fiction. If you want to be a fiction writer, you know, go ahead. You know, monetize your stories. But if you're not monetizing these stories, you're just wasting your time, and you're living in a doom hole. That's my and again, this word manipulation in free markets, everyone is entitled to try to manipulate. It really and when the government controls the amount of money that's out there and who gets it first, yeah, then you can have true government manipulation. But the government cannot they cannot really they cannot limit this Bitcoin free market. They have no true power over it. They don't have any more power than a regular person does. I mean, they could try to buy a lot of Bitcoin and then dump a lot of Bitcoin. I don't think they're going to try to do that. But they have as much power over Bitcoin as you and I do. They really do, because they don't control the issuance of it at all. And it's totally different in the world of the dollar. They have total control over it, and we have none, because we have no control over the issuance of it.
Yeah, I won't mince words here. It's an invitation for fuck around and find out in Bitcoin, and that's really how you get to the next level. But I agree with all that. All the shit coins and everything are shields and distractions. Maybe some of them are good for R&D or whatever, but if it's worth something lasting, it'll be on Bitcoin. And it really just takes patience. And in that interim of time that you have, learn how to develop that patience into something productive, like learning about Bitcoin. And then, as you kind of hinted towards the end, monetize your FUD if you can through like a novel or something. But it's just a sea of opportunity. You just need to open your eyes and look at what's in front of you. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with all of that. You're gonna be in Miami. Obviously, you're there already, right? Or are you just in Florida?
I'm in Miami, baby. I spent basically the first 3 months of the year here, and I loved it so much that I came back just a week ago now, and I'm here until after the conference. So this is going to be the best. Bitcoin. Are you going to be at the conference?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it'll be great to meet you in person. Yeah, man. It'll be everybody that's appeared on my show. Well, not everybody, but so many people that I haven't met in person. I'm going to be able to meet in person. It's just so many. Some people are stuck in states where they've been in lockdown for so long. This is going to be such a relief. This is the first time they're getting on planes. I mean,
Oh my God, yeah.
I've been on plenty of planes in the last
I
year.
feel like for people from a lot of the like the cuck states, it's gonna be like the kid that was sheltered in high school and goes to college and just like lets loose.
Dude, tell that like that is the perfect freaking comparison there. That is a perfect that really is that really is how it's going to be. There's going to be some people vomiting quite a bit and just really enjoying themselves. So it's gonna it might make some mainstream news here. We're talking like 10,000 people. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, this is, and I
Like
really,
I don't know how that matches with like Coachella or anything else, but for like a conference like this, I can only imagine that's huge.
and just compare if all the things that didn't happen in the last year, well, that had happened in the last year didn't happen. This was originally scheduled for March of 2020 in San Francisco, okay? And I was going to go to it. And then we had this horrible virus. The virus wasn't horrible, but the panic was horrible over it. And
Yeah.
and it's just, if this wouldn't have happened, the San Francisco 2020 event would not have been anywhere close to as important and as big of an event. And what this all means, what this has evolved into, but it's showing that Florida, I mean Miami, this could be the new tech hub of the world. They could not have this thing in California. They wanted to have it in 2021, and they still couldn't have it. All these weird rules and nonsense. And so many people have gotten out of California now and want nothing to do with it. And this is kind of really like the physical manifestation of all that people are going to see it in front of their eyes, just like what it means to do something in Florida compared to what it means to do something in California. And by the way, now, and they are letting up the restrictions in California, partially because the government.
I know, but they take so much pride in getting vaxxed and be like, everyone needs to. I feel great after my second one. This is how we get back to normal. And they're just naturally bred to believe this indoctrination, and it's just disappointing. Like some of the podcasts and stuff that I listen to that aren't Bitcoin related, I'm just like, I like you a little less now, but it's like they don't have any other option. It's like they think this is the only way instead of sticking it.
Fear is so powerful. There are plenty of Bitcoiners at the beginning of this whole panic a year ago. I was shocked. They all of a sudden were statist.
Frankly,
they were statist. And then I never had these dudes on my shows again. I'm not naming names, but people who pay close attention to my show, they can tell who hasn't been on the show for a freaking year and stuff. I mean, it was shocking. But then going back to California, the freaking sociopathic governor over there, he really, once he got this recall thing going, he realized like, wait a second, I've taken it to a certain level. It's great that Americans have this in different states, you have different ways of putting your middle finger up to the government.
It's like the 10th Amendment's actually a thing.
Exactly. So he did. He's letting off the restrictions on June 15th, apparently, or something like that. For all you Californians, I would still rather be. So for the Californians who signed all the recall petitions, he's not going to get recalled, but it definitely woke him up. Okay, so there definitely are things people can do. The little things. There's some people that are like, oh, what's up with not wearing the mask? It's it's so just do it. You're not making a difference. There comes a point. You got to draw the line in the sand somewhere. You got to draw the line in the sand somewhere. That was a pretty easy way to draw the line in the sand. Imagine if people were just like, if every single person was like, yeah, the masks are fine. Then the government would take another step. What's the step after that? What's the step after, like, if everybody's compliant on the mask, what's the next thing? I don't even want to imagine what the next thing would have been. So for all those people who are like, couldn't you just get along and just, just do it? No. There gotta be people that speak up against it, because you don't know what the next government overreach step is. And I don't want to, I don't know if people in California are more prone to following government orders than others. I don't know. But because there are plenty of people in California, I mean, I don't want to generalize like that at all, because there are plenty of people in California that were super fed up. I think the general aura on social media coming from California is exactly what you described. There seem to be a lot. I mean, Hollywood's there, so there are a lot of loud voices that are compliant. But I mean, deep down, Silicon Valley was built on defiance. It really was built on defiance.
Yeah.
And so there are some people that have that at their core, but still they want to fit in, so they've quietly left California.
Or they just don't want to lose their jobs because they have families and everything, and California is expensive as it is. It's like they're forced into this compliance, but they're probably stacking silently on the side.
Well, if they were truly stacking silently to a certain level, they could leave. More defiant. They could be openly more defiant. And there are people that are like that. There are
fuck you money element of Bitcoin. Like when I see some of the big voices on Twitter, it's like they have no fear because they know they got their stack, if anything else.
Well, that's me. That's me. I say what I'm going to say about it. Every political. I mean, I got suspended for YouTube for 3 months because of talking about the virus and everything. So I be a unique beast. Get into a situation that is freedom. That is freedom of speech. Get into a situation where you've got that financial backing, where it doesn't matter if you get fired or you work for yourself or whatever. Where fitting in is overrated. It takes a mental state, because people don't want to lose their friends. People don't want to lose their online friends. Dude, they're not truly your friends if you're worried about stuff like that. Okay. And I understand, having kids and having a wife is awesome for some people, but in a sense, they can be attack vectors right there. You don't want to ruin the kid's social life. The wife is nagging you. Why are you posting this mask video? I mean, there are issues that everyone's got to deal with. And but before you buy into the whole normie lifestyle, weigh the pros and cons. Weigh the pros and cons, dudes. And for all the people out there, and I'm going to do a video on this soon enough. All the people that are like, I don't need to control my own private key. Coinbase, they insure, they insure my Bitcoin, and they're going to, if something went wrong over there, they say it's insured, they're going to bail me out, blah, 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 blah. And, to a certain level, I don't look into all the specifics, but, Coinbase is very well capitalized now, obviously. It is a Bitcoin bank, obviously. And in theory, what these people are saying might be true. Like, if something went wrong, Coinbase would, if Coinbase got hacked, they would still bail everyone out. That might be true, but people are not thinking about the unconfiscatable aspect of Bitcoin. Okay, there's the other side of the coin here. Okay, let's say you're keeping $1 million worth. You don't trust yourself with $1 million worth of Bitcoin. You should. That's the reason. Having power over your money is what this is all about. But hey, let's say you're Joe Normie. You did well with the Bitcoin. You kept it. You got $1 million at Coinbase. You think you're a freaking millionaire. And then all of a sudden, your wife files for divorce. And, well, if you controlled your own private key, your wife couldn't take your Bitcoin. At your Coinbase bank, you better believe if the judge orders the Coinbase bank to give half your Bitcoin to your wife, they're going to do it, okay? So there you go, people who love to be insured and everything like that. And I'm not giving you some something that's weird or odd, like the government classifying you as a terrorist and saying to Coinbase, confiscate all his money. No. I'm talking about something that happens to like half the people in the United States that are getting married. Don't like half the people in the United States that get married get divorced? So this is one of the people don't talk about this, but this is what unconfiscatable is freaking all about. When you really control your Bitcoin, you're not gonna have to deal with an issue like what I just told you. But for those who love the comfortability and reliability of Coinbase and being insured by a Bitcoin bank, in the end of the day, that's what you deal with. So really learn about Bitcoin. Really learn about your freaking what controlling your private key is about. Because I get all these people all the time, because I made these little TikTok videos, like one of them was like, get your Bitcoin off of Coinbase. And people were like, why? It's insured. It's safe. I won't lose it. I just gave you a pretty good why right there. Half people get divorced. So a judge, Coinbase follows the letter of the law. If a judge tells them to do something, they're going to do it. And you will quickly learn that you're just it's just like you kept your wealth at Bank of America. I mean, that's these banks. People complained about the banks and the fees and the how unreliable it was, and like, oh, they wouldn't let me take $600 or $800 of cash out at a time. All these complaints, and then some of these people just circle back. They get into Bitcoin, and then they end up in the same loop of like having a Bitcoin bank because it's of the convenience. There is definitely a price of convenience, people. And just personal responsibility. Learn it. Learn to be self-sovereign. Don't rely on these third parties. It was about getting out of the third party mentality. But a lot of people just have looped back into the third party mentality. And you know what? Good for Coinbase that they've created a business that can do this. All right? They're making tons of money off of it. They're not forcing anyone to do this at all. But most people, it's worse than keeping their freaking money at Coinbase. Most people are just keeping it at Robinhood or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, enough of that rant. I need to get that off my that Coinbase thing off my chest. I've been thinking about that lately. It's insured. It's safe.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you got that off your chest. That message can't get spread out enough. Sovereigntize yourself, people, if anything. Yeah, I mean, Adam, this has been awesome. I'm going to be gracious with your time.
Yeah, thank you.
I am stoked to meet you in person. And yeah, it's just, this is my first actual bull run to be a part of and like to be in Bitcoin. So it's going to be interesting, and I feel fortunate to see all things that are to come, and just watch and learn.
Well, I'll say, to quote Axl Rose, "Welcome to the jungle, baby. Welcome to the freaking jungle." We got fun and games here, baby. This is it's wild stuff, and it is an adventure. And when you live through 48-hour periods where it drops down as much as it has, it makes it so much sweeter when Bitcoin gets back to its all-time high, and you know that you didn't panic, you didn't do anything ridiculous. It's quite a glorious, people. It's quite a glorious feeling. All right, dude. Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Everybody, you're doing good stuff over there. I'm kind of burnt out in the whole podcast thing, with my own
Frankly,
channels.
I am too a little bit, and there's just so much out there already. Like some days it's like, do I need to do this? I mean,
No,
isn't there enough?
you don't need to do it. Just do it. Do what makes you happy, man. And you definitely seem happy. And I'm great that CoinBeast introduced us, man.
Oh yeah, before we sign off, just talk about how you got involved with that and what you plan on doing with them.
I mean, John's a great guy. He was a fan of mine since I think 2017 or so. He contacted, a nice Quebecer, and he contacted me over the years. I met him in person at the Calgary Bitcoin Rodeo in 2018, and we bounced ideas off of each other for a few years. And he came up with this. He's a hardcore Bitcoiner, so he wanted he wanted to reach out to TikTokers with a true Bitcoin voice. He thought I had the energy to do it. I think he was correct in having me be the TikTok guy, because I got high energy and they like that. But my Lord, they really don't want to learn too much. I have learned from them. I have definitely learned from them. I give John and the CoinBeast guys all the credit in the world to trying to reach out to the most impulsive people on the planet, which are probably TikTokers, because I mean, they're the ones that are definitely, they're not keeping their Bitcoin at Robinhood. They're keeping their Dogecoin. I mean, Bitcoin's not even a thing to them. But I think CoinBeast is trying to do good things, and I like them. I like what they're doing, and I like the group of people that are trying to get together. And I'm happy to be associated with John and everybody over there. It's been an interesting experience being the TikTok guy, and you can learn from the normies, and I've definitely gained knowledge from those TikTok people just about behavior, about herd behavior, about herd mentality. And it's made my hand even stronger. And I just want to point out, part of that story was meeting John in person at the Bitcoin Rodeo, which was not even that big of a, compared to what we're about to see in Florida. It was nothing. It was just, it was a fun event. I give all the guys the credit who put on that thing in Calgary. I really loved my introduction to freaking Alberta. Alberta, the best freaking province in Canada, okay? The most freedom-loving province. And that was a great introduction. But I got to say, if I had that network opportunity for that small event, all you people that are going to be in Miami, this is going to be the ultimate in-motion networking event. Get rich off of each other, dudes. Millionaires will be made at this thing, okay? The ideas that are going to come out of this are going to be so exciting. We just said, be happy. If you're not happy doing a podcast, don't do it, all right? But you're going to be creative. If you're going to be at this event, come up with new happy ideas. And I think we're going to have all sorts of new partnerships form, all sorts of new, and I'm going to be doing interviews there. So I'm going to have new content. Again, I'm burnt out on content, but this is going to give me a lot of content, this event. So I'm so excited about it. And for the people that are watching this that are going to be there, come up to me, say hello. You will see I am just the same dude you see on the internet. And if you got ideas, pitch them to me, man. Again, part of the reason I'm burnt out with all this video stuff is because of all the administrative nonsense, making the GIFs, whatever you call them, the little pictures, and just the whole social media stuff. What's it called? What are the little pictures called?
Stills.
Yeah, whatever. I can't even think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Screenshots.
Yeah. So, dudes, opportunities, Miami, be in motion.
Thumbnails.
Thumbnails. God, I couldn't think of the word. I only got, I got to take a nap after this. Get your 8 hours of sleep, people. 8 hours of sleep. That's your health tip of the day. I only drink water. That's another health tip of the day. Pound that like button.
Boom.
All right.
I love it.
Right,
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. And I think I like my slogan at the end of every podcast is so appropriate for what we talked about. And that's just own your failure, because God knows our so-called leaders don't. And I hope, if anything, people can take that away after our chat. But Adam, this was awesome, dude. Can't wait to see you in person.
All right. Yeah,
And
I like that saying. That's very responsible of you.
it is self-ownership, people.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
See
Peace
ya.
out, man.
I'll stop it.